Who's that guest? It's Kendall.
Oh, fuck, really? Again?
For fuck's sake.
The one DnD.
What's
One
that?
D&D to rule
It's
them all.
a simplified
people have
version
said
of
this now.
Dungeons and Dragons. It's one dungeon and one dragon. It's just very streamlined.
You enter the dungeon. Is there a dragon in there? Of course there's a dragon in there!
There's only one dungeon, damn
It's
it.
Dungeon and Dragon!
The dungeon.
It's just like a little town with like 20 people, you're 3 of them. You wander into the like local cave and you're like, oh, there's a dragon. They're like, yep, you either win or you lose. And that's the end of
That's
the
it.
campaign.
Yeah.
You
There
wander,
are no more
you
dice
wander
rolls, you just
inside of
flip
the,
coins.
dragon.
You walk up
You
to
gotta
the you walk up to
We already
the to
said
the
that.
entrance
It's a
to the
D2.
dungeon. You flip the coin. You're like tails. You're like you can't go in the dungeon. Sorry.
That's the end.
That's,
Coin-
I had this
coin
whole
is a
dungeon
D2.
crawl.
The door's
Had the
locked.
whole dungeon crawl figured out, but nah. Sorry.
You literally have to crawl through the dungeon, that's it.
So is
Crawling dungeons.
this completely separate to the announced like 5.5?
I think
Uh,
it is
you
what
know
they
No,
were
what?
I think
referring to.
that was
Yeah.
rumored, yeah. So everyone picked up on a rumor too early, got excited and got a bit like crazy about it, started
Yeah.
talking before it was actually announced properly, and assumed it was 5.5. And they've just gone, no, fuck you, we're not doing 5.5, we're doing 1.
No, they were so like
D&D.
hyper
They
fuck
pulled
you.
a Microsoft?
No. We're not even going 5.5. We're just taking it right back. We're fucking all the numbers off. That's for coming up with
They were,
rumors.
they were
Yeah.
learning from Xbox, like their
That's what I
weird
said. They just pulled a
numerology sort of
Microsoft.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Don't worry,
just
there'll
probably
be
didn't go,
D&D
just didn't wanna
360
get
next
going.
week.
Plus,
Yeah.
they're not reinventing the wheel like they did a lot from like 3.5 to 4 to 5. Like they're just keeping all of that 5th edition rule set in
Yeah.
play.
It's essentially like
So,
it's backwards compatible with 5th edition, or it's supposed to be. It's some
Yeah.
like
they
there are
don't
some
want
different
backlash.
there are some different rules in it, and you can like sort of choose. Oh well, maybe I prefer the 5th edition version of that ruling to the one
The one.
ruling.
I think that's kind
To
of
rule
good to
them
a
all.
degree. Like it's a bit more like how you treat like a video game, right? You have these more modular updates where it's like, oh, you know, this is how we treat this rule now, rather than being like, you have to wait 16 years because 16's the lucky number today. You got to wait 16 years, you'll get a new edition, and we're just changing fucking everything.
Yeah.
You thought you knew how to play D&D? Wrong.
I don't
Nice,
think the
redundant.
game is like gonna be able to be improved on too much. Like I think they've realized that, and they just keep bringing shit out like constantly. Like I'm nowhere near up to date with the content on D&D. Like there is just so much out there now. It's insane. And so they're realizing that they can capitalize on that even more by just improving on what they need to improve on and keeping the rest in play.
Isn't a lot of those updates? They're not actually updates to like mechanics.
They're
of the game.
expansions of sorts.
Yeah, they're like,
just
here's
add-ons.
some more playable races, or here's some more like spells, or here's some more areas. They're not like changes to core rules though.
No,
Yeah, well,
no, not at all.
that's like the current expansions and stuff. So one D&D is like to come out in 2024, and they're currently playtesting material from it. So there are a couple of revisions of base rules, like not like complete change, but revisions of them. And the community's like playtesting them now as if they were unearthed arcana, and they're going to get community feedback from it. And yeah, by the time the final thing comes out in 2024, it might be almost identical to 5th edition, or there might be some like massive changes.
Holy
Like I was
crap,
going,
we're
I was-
ahead of the game for once.
They're
So,
leaving
because
everyone
this show
in,
is 3
in
weeks
point.
recorded in advance. we're
yeah, it's going
often-
to come out before 2024, hopefully.
Yeah, we're often behind the ball on announcements, but this time we've done it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you seen how Brady edits? It might be 2024.
We'll be cancelled before then.
Yeah, like one thing the biggest thing I've noted, not just because of the meme content from some of the pages I'm on, is like the actual wording in the playtest at the moment is if you roll a natural 1 on a d20 check, it's a fail. If you roll a natural 20 on any d20 check, it's a success. So 5th edition, like that's implied the DM could do it that way, but it's only a guaranteed hit or miss on an attack roll or saving throw. If it's an ability
Yep.
check, a 1 doesn't mean a fail if you have the modifiers and abilities to push it to a success, and a 20 doesn't mean a success if you don't have the modifiers to push it. Like, say it's a 25 that you need to get. So that's like the rules as written in 5th edition. But 1 D&D is taking it the other way and just saying 1 you fail, 20 you succeed.
That really pisses me off because it's very circumstantial as far as like ability checks and things go, especially when you're talking about persuasions and stuff. So the perfect example that I've used from, I can't remember where I got it from, but I stole it from someone because I'm a DM and that's what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah. Was that someone was trying to persuade a king to give them his crown. And like fuck. Like, how is that ever going to be a thing that you would be able to persuade a king to do? And he was just like, oh, I rolled a nat 20, so it happens.
No.
The DM was like, straight up, no, you're not fucking doing it.
Like, I think
Ever.
as a
like
DM
when
in
you
that thing, I'd
sculled,
just be like, you're
200
not rolling.
beers,
I'm
and
like,
you
cool.
rolled,
So you
and it was
don't
like-
get his crown, but you don't go to jail. That's how a nat 20 would work in that scenario. So the king pardons your ridiculous outburst.
Your transgression, yeah.
Yeah, and then just goes, you know what? If you leave now, then I'm not going to have you murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is up to the DM at the end of the day, where it's like,
yeah,
if they
these
call
aren't-
for a
we're not gonna be
roll
set in stone,
or
but-
something like that. But yeah, I think it's a big spit in the face of bards, but it's in a good way, because bards getting really snippy about that shit, about their, like, the minimum score they get on certain checks because of like all the bonuses to skill proficiencies that a bard gets by like level 5. So it's like, I'm going to persuade the person. I rolled a 1, so that comes to 18 or something, and then they get like reliable talent and stuff like that. So it's like, if it's a 1, you just fail. Sorry, new rules, new interpretation of that rule. So that's
I
one thing in the
that was
playtest
always
material.
fair anyway. Like, there's your bonuses and pluses, but there's also, look, that's what you fucking rolled. There's a reason rolls are in D&D. Like, they're supposed to create that kind of an element of life. Like, despite the fact you're skilled in something, every now and again as a human being you don't do it that well.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Like-
it's been homebrewed that way through a lot of games, but it's just like, now they're trialing it as like a hard written rule. So just
We'll
for
see
this
how that
playtest
goes.
material, as I said,
I'm
like these are all
interested to see if
playtests
other
right
people
now.
are all for it. Like, I would be very interested to see if this crosses the line. Like, if there are more people for it than against it. I don't know.
I think
I'd be surprised.
it's one of those things that, like, there's always going to be angry, butthurt people about stupid things. But ultimately, I think one of my favorite things about the way we've played D&D and stuff like that is treating it more like how Edge of the Empire Star Wars works, where you might get a success, but that doesn't inherently mean that your objective was successful.
That's
might
right. Yeah.
achieve a positive outcome, but that doesn't translate to, you get the King's Crown, right?
That's
And
right.
I think that's the important thing.
And
That's
it's
it.
situational,
Like,
right? Like,
yeah,
if what you're trying to achieve with your role is just outside of the realm of like any sort of possibility, then it's like, okay, your positive outcome is just not a fucked outcome, despite the fact you rolled amazingly well. That's still just gonna be like, all right, you don't get shot in the head on the spot, but still, you were trying to do something completely ridiculous, so you get to walk away and be cool with that.
I'm gonna say, I really hope I read that playtest material accurately, because if I messed up, this is just really embarrassing.
No,
that is
I did
definitely
read the
something
same
to
thing.
discuss,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I've seen a couple of people already saying exactly what we're saying about it.
Yeah.
So, I
So-
don't think it's going to get across the line. But even if it does, there's no reason we can't revert, as we all said before,
Well,
to the base standard 5th edition, which is exactly why I think they're going to keep them both there.
Yeah,
So-
like there's no reason you can't like combine them, use one over the other. If one D&D doesn't take off, you can just play 5th edition. If
That's right.
you like one,
Well,
make
there's still
one
people-
D&D
there's
better.
still
people
Yeah.
playing first edition. Like
There's still people
there's still
playing,
people
all
yeah.
the way through.
Yeah, jamming
Like-
with 3.5. I see that a
Anything,
lot.
3.5
Yeah.
is a huge success for its time. I just think that these days with the technologies, they've been left behind. So it's like you kind of got to move with the time at least a little
Yeah.
bit. Like,
Well, like there's no new material coming out for
no,
for 3.5 something. Like
But I don't think there's
Pathfinder
any, like,
took over
online,
the.
like D&D Beyond stuff for like 3.5 either. Like,
I don't.
know.
Yeah, I don't think so. Just because, it's not. It's
just
not
not
where
there.
everything's going. It's not as successful. But I guess the old style pen and paper sort of thing is what works for the 3.5 enthusiast. It is a lot more number.
And that's
Which
fine.
is
like,
weird considering they have so many more abilities to keep like running checks of, so which is just insane. But well, whatever.
That
Each
does
their own.
bring me to an interesting thought in regards to that. So we were talking about mixing and mashing 1 with 5e and that, and with how prevalent homebrew is, like, what are your thoughts on the effect onednd will have to homebrew? Like,
Talking about the proposed third stage of onednd with the
Virtual tabletop.
with the virtual tabletop interface.
well, to some
Maybe even
degree,
before that,
I
like-
have a lot of
Yeah.
thoughts about the virtual tabletop that we can probably get to, but
Well, as
I
we
was
said
more just
before-
thinking, like, you know, does it make it harder? Like, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh, well, I want to run this campaign. It's like, oh, well, fuck, I want that rule from 1, and then I want to go from 5e here, and then you've got to keep track of the rules that you're trying to pull from each edition, especially if it's just building upon 5e.
I guess it depends on how much they actually permanently change.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, I haven't looked into that side of it too much, but like, if their business plan that it's backward compatible with 5e and like most 5e playtest, like adventure modules and source books, then I don't know why it wouldn't also be as compatible with existing homebrews for that same system.
My
assume-
thoughts are that when you start playing D&D like through D&D Beyond in the future, you'll probably be able to like configure your settings inside of your game and your campaign, because you make your campaign, you have your players join your campaign normally through D&D Beyond when you're running an actual campaign through that. I think you'll be able to like mash it up and make your rule set whatever you need it to be. So you
can have
certain
homebrew
elements.
classes and
you can already
add
do a lot
monsters
with homebrew.
and items on D&D Beyond now anyway. So
Yeah. So I think it's
I-
going to be even more,
yeah.
even more mash upable than ever before, I'd say. I don't think they're going to make it less than what it is.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be adding more.
yeah, my only
options
thing
to
with homebrew stuff would be probably the only question mark I'd have is with that virtual tabletop thing,
Yeah.
because I assume that's going to be a lot more compatible with adventure modules and
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
so
stuff.
run
Though
us
they-
through what's that looking like? Is this
Yeah,
like
so that's probably
similar
the
to what
last
we did with
topic.
Zach for Star Wars, or is this
Sort
a
of,
bit
yeah.
more-
So
Similar-ish.
it's going to be Dungeons and Dragons virtual tabletop. So it's going to be similar to Tabletop Simulator as we've played. Have you done Tabletop Sim before, Kendall?
yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Sorry, I was trying to think of a smart ass thing to say to that, but all that came out was yeah.
Very smart
Because of
ass.
the
Very
sword
good.
on
Well
your
done.
shoulder.
Very clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's going to be similar to that in the sense that it's going to be set up in an online virtual setting, but it is very much still going to be tabletop.
The issues that my concerns are that you might have to pay for specific content instead of having free reign. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of questions on the table right now. A lot hasn't been answered straight away because they haven't even built the game. It's still an alpha. So people are like concerned about, okay, we already pay a subscription for D&D Beyond for anyone who has like the full access. So you guys wouldn't, because it's free for your 6 characters. But when you pay the subscription, you get more access and more, usability. Unlimited power. But
Fucking DMs.
they're already concerned, like, all right, so we're paying for that already. With this tabletop thing, are we going to be paying a one-off thing? Probably not. We're probably going to be paying a subscription-based thing. Do you need to pay for a subscription-based thing plus content inside of the D&D world, like the D&D tabletop simulator, as well as your content that you've already paid for inside of the books? Now, people are saying that it will all come with books in the future, and I think you might be right, but I'm guessing it's going to be like $50 for a physical copy of the book, $65, this is Australian of course, for the hard copy plus digital format for D&D Beyond. So you'll get a little bit of a bonus there. You'll get the two different formats. Then you'll pay a subscription to D&D Beyond to have access to D&D Tabletop Simulator, but you'll only have base access and you won't be able to do anything until you buy additional stuff inside of that as well. Maybe. I don't know.
No, it's hard to say, and as we know, not much has been announced. They've done a demo and it's like a pre-alpha visualization. It's like not even what the gameplay is going to be. It's just a graphic rendering of this is the sort of thing. you can expect. I think my thought with it at first was they said they were using Unreal Engine, so I was thinking, okay, can everyone jump on with like their MacBook they use for work and use this smoothly?
That's pretty wild.
That was my first thought. I'm like, are you talking about for making, or do you need like a higher system to play along with your friends? That was my only thought.
Fucking MacBook is sitting on like an extreme fucking fan to run all this shit. Like, that's not gonna go.
Yeah. So tech guy, go do your thing.
All right, so being on Unreal Engine 5 is one thing, but actually requiring resources is another. So Unreal Engine 5 is just a rebuild of, Unreal Engine and so on and so forth to the latest generation, but they still don't have to have like baseline requirements, so you don't need a rig like what I run just to run that. And then it also depends on how they're hosting it, because I don't know if they host it through like DnD Beyond, they could treat it a bit more like Google Stadia, where it's actually rendering and doing all the compute in the cloud, and you're just accessing it from a web page. Which for actual gaming like FPS and stuff, it's kind of shit because there's a lot of input lag. But if you're playing tabletop, that ain't too bad.
That's fine. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So something
cool.
like that could be really cool, because that's the thing is like, nerds are usually poor because they've spent all their money on miniatures and wizard hats. So
Yep.
yeah,
And sweaters.
And sweaters. I mean, yeah, you need them.
Swords.
And swords.
I
Yeah.
have a sword.
I think I got some swords
my
just above my head. There they are.
Jace, where are your swords?
Swords.
I have a screwdriver.
My sword. It's actually a little scary
That's the
that I
IT
can't
sword.
find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brady's child has his sword.
Oh, there it is. It was kind of scary. I couldn't find it. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
The
That's
sword
way
in the
worse.
house with the child.
But yeah, that's way worse than
Fucking
not
miniature Chucky just running around.
Chucky with a katana. Oh, that's amazing.
Look, I'm not surprised you have the smallest sword. It's fine. You got 2 tongues.
Yeah, I got 2 tongues and my sword's a bit thicker than yours.
Big boy.
Anyway,
But yeah, virtual tabletop. So like, it doesn't seem like, it seems like an upgrade, like maybe like the next level in evolution to the tabletop simulator stuff we do. Yet Brady's got his BB.
yeah, he's really offended by that girth comment.
Yeah.
I really do sort of agree, but I do kind of worry as well. So one thing I love about tabletop sim is the ability to do fucking anything.
Yeah.
If I want to make a miniature that's just a girthy penis running around, I can do that straight away, no problems. D&D Beyond, or like D&D Virtual Tabletop, don't think you're going to be able to do wacky shit.
Which
It's
is
going to be
a
limited
where I'm
to their
Funny
content.
thing, because I
Mods.
discovered, I thought our games were like pretty fucking degenerate. And then I started like listening to other people's and like searching what was out there, and I was like, we're reasonably clean.
Yeah.
So
Up
not
your
being able
game,
to create a walking penis in a game might actually be a bit of a problem for D&D.
That's where I don't think any homebrew stuff is going to be allowed. Like, I think it'll just be like a cube with a question mark on it. I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a dick.
Look, I'll be honest, I'm not convinced by that yet, and maybe I'm a bit like of a romantic when it comes to it. Like, I definitely know that is the concern, but I do think like the whole purpose of like 5e and why it took off was that they learned from 4th edition, and then they listened to the community and thought, well, why didn't this take off? Why have people gone either back to 3.5 or switched to Pathfinder, because we gave Pathfinder the rights to use essentially our system and stuff, and they learned from it. And even with bringing out this one D&D, they're being like, okay, this is our project, we're releasing it in 2024. Here's playtest material. We're not keeping this under the lid. You guys get back to us with what you like and what you don't, what's broken and what isn't. So, like, I'm not convinced, and I do know they are, Wizards of the Coast are a subsidiary of Hasbro, so I do know anyone sees Hasbro and they think money grubbing thing, you know, past experiences with certain franchises not withholding. But I do think as far as Wizards are concerned and D&D, their track record's been pretty good at knowing what their players want. So
What a
I don't
beautiful
want
optimist we've
to-
invited onto the show. This doesn't suit at all.
I
We have
don't
to cancel the whole episode.
look.
Fucking hell.
Maybe
It's a bunch of cynics you're on a show with.
maybe I've been in 2 YouTube videos that they've helped fund because they promoted
he's been
things
bought.
for them.
Yeah.
and I wouldn't
He's a
mind
fucking
that
wizard's
happening
shill.
again. Maybe that's the whole reason. I don't know. Maybe. If you're watching this, Wizards, that's my defense. No. But like, no, I do kind of think that, and I do get the pessimism because it is scary to think that there could be a big paywall behind a lot of interaction, but there's already a bit of a paywall now. Like, books are expensive with like 60. You want the D&D Beyond subscription, that's a bit. You got to pay for each class. If you want a tabletop simulator, maybe the players don't have to pay for it, but the DM usually has to. If the DM wants to make their own dungeons online, they got to use one of the multiple map making tools to put them together, and then there are different things to put together. There is still a bit of a paywall if you're doing it online. It's from like a lot of different areas, and it's when you look at your monthly billing. Yeah, when you get your monthly billing at the end.
To Incarnate for your map creation, you're going to be paying,
like
Hero
Roll20
Forge for your 3D modeling and the rest of that shit. Like, there's so many different ways to spend the monies.
There already is. So
you're
like,
right.
what's like? I guess we're going to see though, but like either it being centralized and something's good because it's all in one place, or it's bad because it takes away competition and collaboration. And it's just one company controlling everything, a la Disney or Telstra
that is
or
the
something
concern,
like that.
I think a lot of people are saying, because a lot of that other stuff out there, like a lot of that, 5th edition content that isn't Wizards is fucking amazing. Like, some of it, it's always made by players and lovers of D&D. Like, they're not there to try and monetize it initially. They just come up with some great ideas, and all of a sudden, bam, it just explodes.
And it's been very supported by Wizards as well. Like that, I know, like purchasing D&D Beyond's like the biggest thing they've done recently to like acquire the biggest property. But that was like just selling their source books and giving like great digital content without being like owned by them or officially partnered with them for ages.
Yeah,
like that was just a thing. So they've had this community collaboration thing for a while. And we've enjoyed that. I think a lot of the community has enjoyed that. And they're pitching this new thing. And because there's so many question marks about it, a lot of people are going straight to the worst case scenario and assuming it's definitely going to happen. Whereas like my slightly more optimism on it, I'm like, I don't think it definitely is going by track record, but I definitely understand like the worry that it could.
I think coming from the
sense?
gaming space, I see the possible negativity to it because so much happens with like games and stuff where it's like, all right, well, here's how we're going to rob you for every penny that you've ever earned. And
I mean, the hardest part to look at now is that they're already doing it with D&D Beyond. So if you don't own a source book but you want something out of that source book, you can buy each piece individually, or you can just buy the source book. So if you want to do a multi-class barbarian / something, but it's something that doesn't exist in your regular adventurers, player's handbook, then you've got to step out of that realm and either pay for a source book for that material, and we're talking about D&D Beyond now, like online content, or just pay for that individual piece. So if you wanted to,
like $2 for a new race, like,
I
want to play this race. Here's $2. Yeah.
It's not a lot, but every time just unlocking a tiny bit of a content each time, it tends to add up after a little while. You make
microtransactions.
A satire bard or something I made one time, but I wanted to do a different style class of satire or whatever. Wanted to go like a different multi, had to buy that as well. So then I paid for that, and I'm like, cool, well, I'll get this bit from this other book. And by the time you're done, you've spent like $20 on this, like just a character. So I'm just a little bit concerned about, do you buy the book, then you get access to content in the virtual tabletop? Do you get access to a base area of virtual tabletop stuff, and then you have to buy campaigns inside of that? Yeah, I don't know. It's just, time will tell.
I guess that depends on where they see their future from a money-making perspective. Do they see it digitally, or do they see people?
I think the last couple of years has definitely shown that the future is digital. By a long shot.
So I think if that's the case, I think you can expect to see more microtransactions. So we had this recently in our campaign. We all leveled up.
And I just charged them microtransactions to level up.
Sort of.
Sorry, your level up is behind a firewall.
Brady puts the micro in microtransactions.
Yeah, because he's a tight ass too. He didn't give me anything.
Like 100%. Like I was looking through what I get by leveling up, and I was like, oh, but it costs $1.99.
No,
Justin,
right,
can
yeah.
I use yours? And you're like, don't be a stingy fuck. I was like, all right.
I didn't have any extra content. I'm a stingy fuck too.
Yeah.
Gotta make
Yeah.
money.
So it's like,
Yeah. Well, that's right.
I do see it going that direction, 100%.
D&D's for the people, but they still got to get paid, y'all.
Yeah, but
no,
that's what I was
100%.
gonna say is I don't
Right.
actually mind it.
No,
to be
I'm not against
fair.
it at all.
I think
And
with
if
the
it's a
amount of content they
one-stop
put
shop,
out,
yeah. If it's a one-stop shop, as Kendall was saying, like if it's all in all like really good content, like the tabletop runs well, everything's in there, I'm
That's the
happy to
other
pay. Like
if the
on
tabletop
that.
works really well,
that's gonna be pin.
I'm fine to pay
Yeah,
for it.
same.
Because
Like-
we've been doing like we've played a couple, at least 2 games over Zoom now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and they're fine, but if they can amplify that experience and make it this one spot where everything's like way better, like that, we're down.
Yeah.
Virtual
Yeah,
tabletop
100%.
is a chore to set up as well.
It's
Like
gonna-
it's not easy. So it'd be great if they made this thing like, you know, click and boom, here's an instant dungeon
Yeah.
set up if you needed it. And like
Yeah,
go for
it's.
it.
I feel like it's going to be horses for courses as well, because I know a lot of people, as much as virtual's taken off as it has to because of like COVID and stuff. A lot of people want to get back to tabletop. They miss
yeah.
being around
I
people.
feel like COVID just accelerated
Yeah.
the human race like push towards that anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
like
in a lot of ways. Like, my new job's working from home, and like that's probably possible because of COVID. Showed like how much work can be work from home. Like
Are you
how
doing
many?
OnlyFans?
How many?
I'm trying
how
to
many?
think of how you do acting from home.
Oh,
You're
no,
doing
no, 'cause-
OnlyFans. 100%. Don't lie
I
to me.
like the idea that you think I made enough money as an actor to not need any other job. I like your faith in me. It's misplaced, but I like it.
I'm just the
We've seen your
optimistic
acting,
weeb.
mate. It's good.
Yeah, that's why it's misplaced. Anyway, not my bad. You guys have terrible taste. Anyway,
Yeah, that's true.
Have
So-
you seen our show?
yeah,
It's us
and you invited me
explaining our
back.
terrible taste to each other.
Yeah,
Constantly.
I know Jace's is probably the best because like vegan's got less of that iron sort of aftertaste.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? He's the only thumbnail that's had blood in it.
Yeah, but the blood goes down smoother.
I don't have any of that heme iron to, really bring him down.
Mm.
But one last thought on virtual tabletop, because it kept popping into my head. One way that could totally make it fucking awesome if they do it, mod packs. So being able to mod the game. So like
Like
I
what
think
Skyrim
I shared
is now, but with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, similar premise. So like there was a campaign that I sent to Brady and Justin that was like on Kickstarter and that, and it was like, a HP Lovecraft inspired DnD 5e campaign thing. I was like, this is pretty fucking cool. I would play this.
So you're thinking like fan-made stuff that they could create.
Exactly, just like
the old
mods
GTA
for games.
mods, like
Yeah.
back in the day. Yeah, cool. That's
But
a cool
obviously what they could do is that people create this content, and D&D could create like a storefront where 50% goes to Wizards, 50% goes to the people who made the campaign.
Makes
And that way
sense.
it's got to go through official channels, so you can't have people making really fucked up campaigns with really grotesque and offensive content, but you can have genuine creators making money off this stuff as well as integrating it with your virtual platform. I think that could be like a huge step forward if they go with that.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah,
a
it
good idea.
depends.
We'll see which
I don't
way
know
they go.
much about
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast. Like,
Like they
I know
currently
there are
allow
still
licensed source books. Like people release like 600-page 5e source books. That it's not from Wizards. You're not going to get it on like D&D Beyond and like put it with another module. But like they've achieved the legal right to do it, so it's something they're currently doing with source books. So it's just like, will they allow it with virtual content in the future?
Well, yeah, like
Sorry to
and,
cut
like,
you off, Brady.
but like that's a good point, because like you could have thought that when Wizards bought out D&D Beyond that they would cut shit like homebrew and all that out of there. Just anything that they didn't want associated with their brand, they could just... But that's all still there.
I think D&D is unique, or tabletop games are unique in that, as opposed to every other IP or gaming thing or any of these things that exist, you actually want people to be creative as fuck. So getting in the way of that is actually like only going to make both your brand and like everything about you look really shit.
Yeah.
So I do think that like homebrew is actually going to grow D&D. It's not kind of like, a lot of people still look down on things like YouTubers as not being real creators, even though there's some amazing docos that are just released on YouTube. They're not seen as filmmakers, despite the fact that they've gone to the same amount of work as something, probably more work than a lot of the shit published on Netflix. I don't think D&D works the same. I think it does thrive off those individual creators.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, it's always what you make it. So, you know, it's going to be different experience for everyone. So I think the more they allow, the more people are going to enjoy.
And like as I said, the old source books are still going to be there.
The old rules are going to be there.
Yeah,
Like, everything's still there.
It's in a renaissance at the moment. Like, will it keep going or is it going to fall down? I mean, that's sort of the thing. Like, have we reached peak D&D? Like, is this like the most popular?
I feel like we have.
Because
I think this is the peak
I don't
right
think so,
here.
because I've been keeping my eye, like as a weeb, I've been keeping my eye on all the shit on Twitter, right? So VTubers have recently just like fucking clung to D&D. Like it is, it's a big thing right now. I think D&D is actually just growing and it's slowly getting more public stuff. Like over the last few years, between like Big Bang Theory, Stranger Things, like it's been getting more public exposure. It's less like underground, less like only weirdos or whatever you want to call it.
No, it's still definitely only weirdos.
It's still definitely us outcasts, but it's becoming more accessible, less like strange, more people are getting involved, and I think it's in the public eye a little bit more, and
No, finish your thought, because this is just a joke.
No,
Well, so's his thought.
My thought probably was, but I do think D&D is coming more public eye, and I think that it's less weird now, and you did screw my thought.
Yeah, sorry. I do that. I ruin things. I'm the ruiner. But yeah, I think
that's Jace.
Damn it.
No, that's
I'm
actually
Dream
technically
Crusher?
my tattoo artist.
No, you're the spoiler. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm the spoiler.
Spoiler alert. Yeah. But I was thinking, something I've noticed is now that D&D's become more like cool, more like accessible to like cool people, like, you know, Vin Diesel plays it and whatnot.
And me.
And yourself and Joe Manganiello and whatnot. There is such more a trend now. If you want geeks, you want to portray geeks in like films or TV to make them laughers.
Oh yeah.
Because laughers used to like, no one knows we exist. This is just a safe community. It's fine. If people are going to laugh at something, they're going to mention Dungeons and Dragons because that's at least something people know about. And people have been happily laughing for a while. And now that D&D is cool, like I think it happened in Hawkeye, in Gravity Falls, and like a couple of other things. They're like, we really need a group of people to be a butt of a joke now. They're like, D&D, like, no, that's cool now. Laughers. Let's get live action role play and put them front and center so we have something to laugh at again.
Like, we're a good collection of people who've like stepped our foot in a bunch of different geek things. You're the guest on the show, and from the sounds of it, you've laughed.
I've never been to a full LARP event now, but I have so many LARP friends who are on my case.
We're a good collection of geek people, and none of us have done it.
I wouldn't know where to do it. For like ages, I wouldn't know where to do it.
There's ones in Berrima.
Yeah,
that's so far away from me.
So there is a friend that I think all of you guys know. I won't name names because, well, obviously, in the middle
Because they
of the
told me to
podcast,
jump
but-
off a bridge.
Fuck them.
Yeah. But he actually invited me to do LARPing once, and then I think I just forgot to reply back to him, and nothing ever came of it.
We're gonna have a
That's
guest
such a
on the show
Jace
soon
thing.
enough, and his name's Tony, and he is an active LARPer in the community. So
Oh, that's cool.
Like, I have no objections to LARPing.
It looks
just-
amazing. I want to try it and stuff.
I
but,
think
like,
when you step into the role and you actually are there doing it, I think it'd be like a fucking hell of a lot of fun. But getting to that point, it's
feel like
almost
it's-
like when someone tells you about D&D for the first time, but you've never actually heard of it, and you're like,
No,
so
no,
it's
okay. Here's the
board
difference. Here's the
game,
difference I
right?
have for you. When you do D&D, you can still pitch it as, hey, I want to get a bunch of people around. We're gonna have some snacks and some beers, and we're just gonna play this game.
Yeah, no, see, I'm out
With
already.
laughing,
Yeah, it sounds super rapey, man. I don't know.
It's a good point, especially if you said that to us.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, you
Isn't
say
that
that
how
to me,
the-
nah, I'm
isn't
out,
that how
I'm
the
out.
podcast started?
That's. But if you do laughing, you can't do it like that, right? Like you have to.
Yeah,
say,
you gotta
"Look, I
have a
need you to
costume,
put
you gotta
in
be a
whole
wave."
bunch of effort.
Yeah.
You gotta put costume in. You gotta
Yeah.
show up to a venue, and you have
Sounds
to.
like a lot
be
of
that
work, like,
thing.
Yeah.
If
You
it's
put
if it's a
accent
one day
on for half of them, like it's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
and you think
can't
the
just pretend
yeah.
I'm sitting around with mates having a laugh. Like this is
Having a
now
laugh.
for real.
Yeah, I'm just sitting around with mates having a laugh.
And also,
That's it.
you think a pay like the pay scale of like getting into D&D is bad. Like I talk to like people I know who do LARP. It's like when's my next $5,000 coming in so I can redo this plate mail armor
Shoelace.
set I have? You're like
Yeah,
I
that
want
medieval
this
shoelace.
armor sculpted to my body, and I need a chainmail to go under that, and then I need the gambeson in between that and that because
But
that's
I
what
still
I
need
think
it
is
functional,
best.
so I need to breathe still.
Yeah, well, that's
So-
why it needs to be sculpted to your body because if
and I
none of
still
those
gotta
things are
like look
sculpted-
good.
Which of the 20 different types of swords that I like do I want made out of the right type of foam? You know, it's like you think buying dice and minis is expensive. When people get into LARP, that you may as well take out a mortgage.
So, fun little backstory here. When we were starting to do D&D, I was like, oh, it'd be funny if I actually got an outfit and showed up as my character to one session, like as Snacks the Barbarian.
And then KJ did.
Yeah, this was
Totally nailed
before
it.
KJ was involved at all. I looked up the
Before
cost
KJ
of
was
like,
born.
yeah, before she was born. She was only born to be on D&D,
on D&D.
which says a lot about Brady.
Yeah, I was
Anyway.
like, I don't want to be in this.
Anyway, but I looked
Taking the
into it
high
and
road.
it was like fucking $500 for like just a like cotton vest thing to
Yeah.
like look similar to like, you know,
You got to get real creative if you're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I'm
for
like,
cheap.
Yeah.
the fuck is this shit?
A lot of LARPers are also cosplayers because they're good at making that stuff and they really
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
being able
it.
to make that stuff and do it. And
That
also,
shit's wild,
yeah.
and anyone who does that, big dedication.
Also, a lot of time LARP's
Absolutely.
not even like medieval. Sometimes it's like colonial era or something, and you're dressed like Amish
Yeah,
people,
like
and you spend a weekend in a castle or something, and you're like, you people are the maids, and you people are the nobles or something. Enjoy the weekend.
is Civil War reenactments in the US technically LARPing?
I would think
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would think
Makes
so.
sense.
Like, yeah.
That's live action
and-
roleplay. That's
And now we get to offend all those people.
It's
All at
just
once.
it's just the ones in America.
Historians.
The ones in America wear their racist propaganda on them, whereas the ones in the LARP community, you need to talk to them a little bit before they reveal how problematic they are.
Well,
that's
thank
fair.
you for
They-
coming, Kendall.
Yeah.
We appreciate that fucking bombshell.
I'm not naming
Anyone else we
names.
want to offend before we leave?
Yeah. Give me a topic.